definitely a puller. And everyone's like, but that's her breed.
And from that, into a 5-star Google review. Because for me, the walk is not just exercise, it's regulation. Didn't she look so relaxed? I'm Orlando Dos Santos, and I want to thank you so much for joining me on this journey as a beta tester. Your feedback is going to be so valuable as we walk into the next stage of this journey. Over the next few weeks, you'll probably meet my wife, Mary, and my 2 dogs, Floyd and Kiki. They're both English pointers. And here we are in my lounge room. We're just a normal family, not huge business people, just a normal family of educators. And over the last few decades, we've given our lives to safety, welfare, and learning. What creates the best environment for learning and relationships to happen? I'm going to tell you my quick story, and then I'm going to tell you a story at the end about a horse and a car. As a teenager, I was bullied very badly, and I developed a debilitating stutter. Emotionally, I was shot. And when I came to Australia when I was 18 years old, I decided I was going to have to rebuild myself. The reason I was bullied a lot was because of racism. And so when I came to Australia, I started to redevelop myself. I had to teach myself to speak again. And I would go to the beach in the middle of the night where there was no one there, just one little light. And I would take some bread and I would throw it out. And as I threw it out, all the seagulls would come forward. I had an audience. And so as a result of that, I started training myself to speak from one word at a time, I just started to retrain myself to speak. And I made a commitment way back then that I didn't want anyone to suffer what I had been through. And especially those who can't speak for themselves, whether they're children or whether it's an animal. And so even though I've been training dogs, my own personal dogs, for decades, when I went into professional training a few years ago after retiring from education, I started looking at the conditions around how learning was happening, and it seemed like we were putting more pressure on the dog and we were not aware of the dog's anatomy as we were pulling from different parts of their body and expecting better results. And so as a result of that, as a result of the fact that Mary has fairly bad arthritis in her hands and couldn't walk the dogs, we went on a journey of trying to make things better for dogs and for people. And so the complete easy walking system was born. Now, originally I was going to send you a box, which was the professional kit, which is $397 Australian. But because of your generosity in your time, and also I know you're very busy and you're giving me a lot. And so what I've done is I put together the inaugural beta testing box. Now this is a huge box. You've seen photos of it come through on your email, and it's over $1,000 worth of equipment. We've got 8 harnesses there, 2 confidence belts. We've got a whole bunch of leads. There's a bunch of things in there. It's your whole pet store in a box. And the reason I've done that, and I'll explain that in the second video, is that I want to give you every option to test the system on any dog, any situation that you come across. And CEWS has actually been built not on the traditional ways of just looking at either equipment, either looking at harnesses or looking at learning, but it's built on 5 layers. And I call it layers, not pillars, because pillars tend to be separate, but layers, one builds on top of the other. And so the first layer that we have is mechanical safety. Is the equipment safe for the human and for the dog? Then we're looking at postural safety. Does it feel good on the human and the dog? Then we're looking at environmental predictability. So can the dog accept the environment because they're feeling comfortable about their body? Then comes emotional regulation. Is the dog feeling safe enough to be able to learn? And can they build that trust? And then obviously the 5th layer is the cognitive learning. Now I believe that trust and relationship is built at the speed of safety. So as far as people and dogs and children, which has been my background over the last few decades, feel safe, they're able to learn and to grow. In the box that you'll be receiving, you've also got the Iceberg book. Now that Iceberg book is my final book of a range of, I've got a series of 7 books, and the Iceberg talks about the 10% of behavior that we look at and we often address without looking at the 90% that comes below that. So I hope you enjoy that book, and that should be a lot of fun. Now we're just going to step outside for a different change of scenery, and it's a beautiful day out there, so we'll step outside and we'll continue this video. See you soon. And here we are in our backyard. We live in a sleepy little town called Mantra in Western Australia, so if you're ever in the area, come and visit. We might even see dolphins behind us. Now the goal is to use the equipment to support learning and simplify it where necessary. Even though there's a lot of equipment there, you don't need to use it all. Just work your way through, and I'm always here to help you with a bit of advice, either on Zoom, emails, a phone call, whatever you want. The system is designed to support redirection, movement, and recovery back into balance, using the girth area as the primary point of connection. So that's very different, because you're not relying on the dog's neck or any places on the dog's body that may be a little bit pressured. Now in the book we have talked about the Iceberg, you'll see some of those experiences, the unwritten rules a dog might have developed about the world. And when they're struggling with the world, it's important for us not to put more pressure on them, but to take the pressure off and to redirect them and give them wins that they can actually do. Now that same philosophy sits behind CEWS. It's not simply about stopping a dog from pulling. It's about exploring whether changing the physical conditions of the walk and also of the equipment on us and them can influence our dog's experience of the walk and our experience of the walk. So CEWS was created to challenge a long-held assumption in the dog industry that we just need to put more pressure on and get them to behave. We've spent decades discussing how to train behavior. CEWS asks a different question. What if behavior change begins with safety? Remember I said that trust grows at the speed of safety? What if walking equipment influences posture, predictability, regulation, and learning more than we realized? So CEWS is not another harness, and here is the main message. It is a regulation-first framework designed to change the conditions in which behavior develops. Now, that is disruptive, and we are very, very clear about actually changing our framework. So looking at the direction that I've already chosen, I'm not trying to build a new harness, but a new category, and that's really important. And the category is regulation first, safety walking, or regulation first safety communication, or regulation first safety training. It's a whole ecosystem. So I did not create CEWS to compete in the harness market. I created CEWS to challenge how we think about behavior, how we think about safety, how we think about regulation, how we think about training, and how we think about the walk itself. And that's where your professional insight is so valuable. So please explore the system, ask the questions, tell me what surprises you, what questions you have, what works, what you don't believe works, what could be improved. I'm here to walk you and walk with you through this process by email, phone, or Zoom. A couple of years ago, I met a man who was in advertising, and he said to me, "You remind me of Henry Ford." And I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "Well, Henry Ford once said, if I'd asked the people what they wanted, they would have said, we want faster horses. What I've done is I've created a car." He said, one of the biggest challenges you're going to have is trying to convince people that this isn't just another harness, that this is a different paradigm, a different system. And so we've taken on the challenge. We've moved from a horse and cart, which is just looking at equipment, to 5 layers of regulation and a whole system, and they all work together. I'm really excited to learn from you and see what we discover together. Thank you for being part of this journey, part of this team, and welcome to the Beta Testing CEWS Behavior Feedback Partners program. Thank you so much. So here I am. I've just finished filming and there are some dolphins. I'm just going to flip the camera around. There they are. And so what happens with these dolphins is, is they swim around in a big circle. And we might actually see them hunting. I'm not quite sure. We'll just see if I can zoom in there. There we go. Hope I caught that. Now what they do is they swim around in a little circle and then they go splashing up in the air, or they flip their tail over and they stun the fish. We've got mullet in here, so they stun the mullet and then they go and pick it up. Sometimes we'll find, this one, sometimes we'll find mullet on our jetty where they flipped it up, and that's where the pelicans and the other birds arrive. And pick up the spoils. Have we got one more splash, or I think the dolphin's just picking up all the stunned fish that they've stunned with that splash. There we go. Wow, this one's having quite a feed. That was a very nice one. And all the dogs start barking. And all the neighbours come out. And we see this almost every day. And we never get tired of it. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. There we go. Very nice. Let's see that one coming. Anyway, we'll let the dolphins enjoy their meal, and I will add this to the end of the video. Speak soon.